Good morning. This is the 52 Weeks to Wealth Principle 30 is learn how to attract the right mentors for your goals. And there is a book that is associated with this lesson. Mike Shine did not read it yet, and so I will be presenting the book later on today. But the book is The Thin Green Line. If you haven't read it, who's read The Thin Green Line? This is probably one of the lesser known books in our 52 weeks. Excellent. So I'll talk about it in a little bit. Before we get into that, mentors, the power of a mentor. This is how you decide what action to take next. All of the knowledge is great. You can get knowledge from books. You can get knowledge from gurus. You can get knowledge from coaches. You get knowledge from mentors on some level, but it's the action steps that your coach and your mentor are going to put you through. Right? They're going to tell you what to do next. Now, a coach is going to be more consistent. A coach is going to say, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And a mentor is going to tell you to do something, and you may not speak to them for another 2 or 3 months. They're going to give you a big list, a larger scale of going these directions. And the coach is going to be more, this is what we do this week. This is how we get things done. They're more micro level, whereas a mentor is a little bit broader scope. Right? The mentor will set up that 2-3 year plan and say, hey, this is where you want to be. This is kind of the gauge, the direction you're going in. And we've talked about it before. You want 2 mentors. You want 3 coaches, 2 mentors, and a mastermind. And the reason for so many people to be involved in your life is your network. You've heard me say it before, is your net worth. You don't make money by how hard you work. You don't make money by how much you know. You make money by the people around you doing the work with the knowledge that they have. Does that make sense? So your network is your net worth, and your mentor is going to guide you into how to do those different tasks, the vision, the goals you should be setting. So when I say mentor guiding you towards the goals, there are 2 types of mentors. One is your local mentor. One is your local mentor. The local mentor has no desire to give you too much information that would take him or her out of the game, right? Like, they're almost competing with you. They're way ahead of you, but almost competing in some level. So you may not always get all the information, but what you do get is local information. You get local connections. You get local information of gauges. This is what a priced property should be like. They may not tell you how to market, right? They may not tell you how to get more customers. They may not tell you how to market or do sales, but they will tell you, well, that's a good deal or that's not a good deal. Does that make sense? It'd be helpful to have a mentor in your local market. Excellent. And then there's the mentor outside of your local market who will tell you how to market, who will tell you how to do sales, who will tell you, hey, this is the strategy to bring more business in, because that mentor is not competing with you on any level. Does that make sense? We see how the mentors might hold back depending on what they're doing. Now, will they give you information about their specific market? They may be reticent to do that because they may be bringing somebody into the market now. Right? They don't typically talk up their particular market when you take a mentor out of market. But a mentor who's already in market, they'll tell you the local prices because they already know you're here. They already know you're in it. They already know that your level of commitment's there. So they're willing to give that information. Does this make sense? The 3 different coaches. And the reason we're talking about coaching and mentorship is because this lesson is Wealth Principle 30. Right? We've gone through the other 29 wealth principles at this point. Last week was own 100% of your results. The week before, learn to love dealing with large amounts of money and the people who have it. The week before that, steadiness of your faith, having the right frame, which, by the way, your mentor helps you set up. Anybody on the call have a mentor already? Somebody that they trust, somebody that they use to guide them to the next direction? Yes. Anybody on the call, am I one of your mentors? Have I been at some point a mentor of yours? I love it. Love it. And here's the other question. Outside of me, do you have other mentors? Yes. Other people that you trust, other people you rely on. Absolutely. And that's condoned. That should be continuous growth, continuously adding new mentors in your life. I can't count my mentors. I have a few who are heavy players. They're big hitters. They swing the bat hard when they swing. And those people really are at bat for me here in the local community. And I have mentors in other arenas. I have spiritual coaches. I have health coaches. I have business coaches, obviously. And those are the three arenas, by the way: wealth, health, and happiness. Health, wealth, and relationships. Those three arenas are where you should have a coach at some point in your life. Does that make sense? Excellent. Now, the thin green mile, the thin green line, not the thin green mile. A thin green line is about the super, super rich, right? If you've never read this book, hasn't anybody else on the call read the book? Trip, good to see you. Stephanie, good to see you. Craig, you guys made it. Excellent. All right. So this book is talking about the super successful, not just like, hey, this guy is rich. Like, we're talking the billionaires of the world, the ultra rich, the super, super successful. Because if you want to learn to get, it's just like 10x, right? Greg Cardone's theory on 10x. If you want to get here, aim for way out there, right? If you want to double your life, aim 10x, like start scheduling more. So if you want to become a millionaire, look at the deca millionaires, look at the 100 millionaires, look at the billionaires, and learn from their experience how you can get there. So there are 6 lessons that I learned out of the book. One is there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. And the difference is rich people spend a lot of money, look rich. Wealthy people have all the time and the best relationships in their lives and a business that they can be proud of. Does that make sense? We recognize there's a difference between being just rich and being wealthy. And so the book defines that. And then it discusses where riches come and go, why rich can come and it can go, and why wealth is unstoppable. Wealth lasts forever because it's built on assets. Rich is built on your efforts, doing work. So we've seen people out there who have high incomes, but they're working like dogs. That's not wealthy. That's rich. We agree? So that's not the goal, right? And I've said that before. The Saturday is this 52 weeks to wealth is a 52 weeks to wealth. It's not to get rich, because I could get you rich for sure, but you wouldn't thank me at the end. Does that make sense? Your family wouldn't thank me at the end. It's about becoming wealthy. And so there's a process. So this book is a phenomenal book to see the experience from other people you can research, you can look up. You're getting a little insight into their lives. 3, being poor leaves no room for error. When you're poor, you don't have many options. If you make one mistake, you feel it. There's no other direction to go. I've had people ask me, where do I expect people to go if we keep raising rents in Fall River, right? If Boston keeps raising rents, where are they going to go? They go to Brockton. If Brockton keeps raising rents, where do they go? They go to Taunton. If Taunton keeps raising rents, where do they go? They go to Fall River. If Fall River keeps raising rents, where do they go? I like to say they go to Rhode Island or they go to New Bedford. So where are my Rhode Island guys? Where are my New Bedford guys? We appreciate you. No, just kidding. They can go wherever they want. It does not matter. Your job is not to, we try to keep rents as low as we possibly can because that increases the availability. But when demand is high and supply is low, the only option to make sure you're getting good quality is to raise your rents. And it's just a function of supply and demand. The more demand there is and less supply, the more the rents have to go up. And so as investors, it's our job to go create more supply. Go out and build more buildings, go out and invest in buildings that are vacant so that we can put more supply on them in the marketplace to decrease rents. But it's also our job to increase quality of housing, increase quality of living. And so by doing that, we also drive up rents and push people who wouldn't be able to afford it out of the city. First instinct is, oh, that sounds bad. You're pushing, you're not giving a place for poor people to live. Well, I assure you, it's actually the right thing to do because the people who want to live in a nice place are willing to work for it, willing to pay for it, willing to build a little wealth to make it work. And the people who are not are okay with living somewhere else. Does that make sense? It's okay to have a nice place to live. Just understand not everybody will decide they want to work hard enough to get there or they want to have enough responsibility to get there because wealth is really about responsibility. It's about people being able to count on you, not work. It's not work. It's responsibility, taking full 100% of your responsibility for the results, 100% ownership. So Lesson 4 was having money has downsides too. Man, it's tough. The whole excitement of life is becoming, and becoming is the process by which a person becomes a person. An artist becomes an artist. You figure out who you are. There is a downside to making money. You find out your true self. You find out who you know, if you've been faking it, if you've been somebody different to make money, well, when you get money, your real you comes out. If you're a good person, you're going to be a better person. If you're a bad person, you're going to be a badder person. Money is just a magnifying glass for what's already there. It just expands what's already there. If you got a good company and you invest in that good company, what happens to Tesla, right? The more money we pump in, the more products they make, the better they become. It's the same with yourself and your business. As you make money, money just expands what's already there. Is this making sense? So Thin Green Line, great book. There's some controversy, the belief on charity. So Carlos Slim is quoted as saying, the only way to fight poverty is to create employment. The only way to fight poverty is to create employment. And then he's also quoted as saying, there is the saying that we should leave a better country to our children. He believes that we should leave a better child to our country, leave better children to our country. And so it's all about training and educating them on how to get to the next level. So read the book. If you're interested, what we do in the 52 Weeks of Wealth is we read a book a week, because everybody else is reading one book a year. And so if you want an unfair advantage over everybody else, you read a book a week. It gives you a 52-to-1 advantage. Ron, Dorina, we can start bringing everybody in now. Let's fill the room up. And so if you're coming into the room, please turn your camera on, put your video on, and let's keep the silence running for probably another 20 minutes just so we can get through the rest of this principle. Is everybody taking notes right now? Everybody's getting this? This is making sense? Excellent. So we're going to teach you, I want to teach you how to find the mentors who can take you to the next level. Does that sound like something that'd be interesting for everybody on the call? Excellent. Wealth Principle 30 is learn how to attract. Learn how to attract the right mentors. This is not hunt for the right mentors. This is learn how to attract people who are already at a higher level than you, doing more than you, being more successful in an arena that you want to play in, but you're not quite there yet. Can you think of a few people right now who might be at a higher level in the game that you'd like to get to? Yes? Excellent. So in order to attract a person, you must have something that they desire. People are attracted to things that they want or things that are like them. So there are two things that will attract somebody to you in the world. One is being at a higher level, somewhere they aspire to be, or two, being in rapport, being exactly like them, having commonalities. So the first step to attracting somebody, anybody really, but we're talking about attracting mentors. The first step to attracting a mentor or somebody into your life is first, you must become the way they are, or become the way they want to be in some aspects. So if you're looking to become like them, that means they're attracting you. Does that make sense? They're already attracting you if something about them you find to be something you want, you desire. And so now in order to attract them, you must gain something that they want. A skill, a knowledge, a property or an acquisition, or a experience, a conversation, something that would bring them in. This is making sense so far. Common sense, not hard work, right? The hardest part, this is where most people falter. This is where most people make the mistake. This is where I was when I was broke, before I wrote the book, Broke to a Quarter Million, and before I became a multimillionaire. I didn't know who I wanted to be my mentor. Can you relate to that experience? Can you relate to the thought of, you know what? I see the importance. I see the value in a mentor, but I'm not sure which one. Right now? Would it be helpful if we narrowed it down? Excellent. Welcome everybody to the group. We're going to do And exercise, because exercises are how you memorize. I can teach you, you can hear, you can listen, you could read it, you could have heard it from somebody else, or you could see me actually doing it. But it's not until you physically walk yourself through an exercise that it will be retained. Does that make sense? Hand to the camera if that is making sense. If you're down to do an exercise, excellent. So if you're here, turn your cameras on. It makes it a lot easier for me to see who's in the room with us. It makes the experience much easier for me to make sure that I'm following up with the right topics. If I see question eyes, or if I see your hand to the camera, I can call on you. That said, the first step is identify the person who you'd like to be a mentor. The problem is there's too many. There's too many out there, too many people who are ahead of you, too many people. And this is also good, right? So whenever you're feeling like you need to be humbled, you just think, yeah, there's 1,000 people out there doing way better than me. But now we got to narrow it down. Let's narrow it down. You need 2 mentors, one outside of your area, one inside your area. Let's start with the local mentor. A local mentor will probably be the most helpful to you in the long term, because as your market changes and shifts, they'll be able to identify and say, this is something we've been through before. This is how we handle it. And 2, the long distance mentor, the mentor outside of your market, they're easier to find. You can pretty much just pay for them, right? They're online, you click, or you meet them at a national networking event where they're doing the same thing as you. Has anybody been to a conference or an event where you were all there for your business, your industry? Yes. Great place to find mentors. Just saying. It's a great place to identify people who are on the growth track as well and who haven't given up on it. And so that's a great place to look for them. If you can think of somebody now who is at one of those events who might have been ahead of you in one of those arenas that you're looking to excel in, write that person down. That's a good opportunity, whether they're local or not. And another one is, think of somebody who, we've done this exercise before, think of somebody who's extremely successful in your market. Think of someone who's extremely successful in your market, doing what you're doing, and just absolutely killing it. They're crushing it, and you look up to what they've created for success. Even if you don't look up to what they've created for success, but you know that they are killing it. They're absolutely slaying it, and you're just impressed by their ability. Can you think of somebody right now? Yes. If you need a few more seconds, it's okay. If you're thinking about it too hard, it's okay not to be at, if you're a coach, it's okay not to think Tony Robbins, right? It's okay to go and think somebody at a level that you recognize. If you're looking to own 50 units, it's okay to think of somebody who owns 50 units or 100 units. If you're looking to buy your first house, it's okay to think of somebody who's already bought a house. Does that make sense? Excellent. So who here is looking to buy more property? We're real estate investors. We're all buyers. Yes. Excellent. If you're interested in buying more property, Darina has a link that she'll put into the chat. And Mitch just put in a link for a calculator if you're looking to evaluate deals. So fill out the buyer questionnaire form, and we'll have Darina connect with you later on in the week. She'll follow up and make sure that you guys are having a great conversation around what to buy. So if you're looking to buy something and you're looking to buy in an area, you should probably ask somebody who's bought in that area. Yes, it makes sense. Sometimes a real estate agent is a great mentor. Sometimes that's who my first mentor was. My first mentor was an agent. He just happened to be an investor agent who already owned 13 units. Before I owned anything, 13 units seemed like a lot. Does that make sense? We know where that's coming from. 13 units seems like, man, all right, you've done okay. Not bad. And you're an agent. And then the second thought is, well, why are you working with me if you're looking to help me buy a deal? Wouldn't you just buy an amazing deal, right? Anybody ever have that feeling if you were working with an investor-friendly agent that maybe they would just buy the property and they wouldn't give it to you? Let me tell you how this works. We can only buy so much at a time. In fact, Ron and I just spent, I don't know what we spent, $500,000. And then we're about to spend this week, $500,000, and then 180 on another property, and then 300 on another property. So we spent over $1 million this month. right? It takes us a little recharge time after we spend $1 million. Does that make sense? So there are deals crossing our table right now that I'm like, fuck, I can't do that one at the moment. I've got to let that go to somebody else. And so we're letting the deals slide by. You know, like Mike says it all the time, you can't kiss all the girls, right? We talk about stocks, we talk about these other investments, and it's like, yeah, I guess you can't have them all, right? And I can't have every deal. Well, my first experience with that mentor was, and it came to me because I started asking for people who knew people who owned real estate, right? Asking people who knew people who owned real estate. So if you couldn't think of somebody successful in your market, go and start asking people who they're working with. If it's not you, that would be somebody else who has been more successful with that person, right? So they've gotten a little more success from that particular person. And start asking around. You will eventually identify the people who are best in your market. It's okay to go out and hunt for people who are best in your market. In fact, when I worked for Walmart, I'm gonna reveal some corporate secrets here. When I worked for Walmart, I used to work in the toy department. I managed the toy department in Fall River, Massachusetts, and we were one of the busiest toy departments around, busiest department in the store, aside from foods. Seems like you guys like your milk. But I would go to Toys R Us when they existed, and I might have been a reason for them not to exist anymore. But I go to Toys R Us, and I go in with this cute little scanner that looked like a cell phone, and I would scan all of their items and put in their prices. All the top items that I knew I was competing with, G.I. Joe, Hot Wheels, you know, Dora the Explorer, Barbie, you know, the big computer, Elmo, man, like, so I would go in and I would do a price check. I'd comp out the competition. I'd bring it back to the store. I'd upload it into the system, and the system would automatically match whatever price I went and scanned, because Walmart was keeping an eye on their competition. Does that make sense? It may sound ruthless, but if we went to them and said, hey, by the way, what are all your prices? Can you just send them over to us in a spreadsheet? We want to, undercut you. Would that be cool? They would not have said yes, right? So I'd sneak in, leave the vest in the car, and just go in a normal customer. And of course, I would grab lunch for myself on company dollar, because I was, working hard, competing, looking at other stores. But you learn a lot when you're looking at your competition, just by going out there and saying, hey, who else would people shop with? Why are they shopping with them? And then go pay them. Experience the experience, right? Go through the register, go through the coaching session, or go through the purchasing, right? I've let realtors in other companies sell my properties. I've let realtors in other companies do the purchase side of my deals. Instead of me going and doing the deal, I experience. Okay, this is one of the best agents in the area. I want to send them a lead. Let me see how they operate. Let me see how they work. Does that make sense? You learn a lot from the people who are doing better than you in things that you're doing. And then ask them to lunch. Ask them to lunch is for free. It doesn't cost much. $50, $100, depending on how crazy your lunch gets. It's not a big investment, and it gives you experience to ask all sorts of deep questions. And the right questions to be asking a mentor are not necessarily always tactical. They're not always necessarily tactical. A lot of them are mindset. Where do you spend most of your time? What do you think about the most? Write these down. Where do you spend most of your time? What do you think about the most? What is the thought every day that makes you successful? What is the thought every day that makes you successful? What are you thinking about constantly? What is your main focus? And then ask the question that everybody asks, but ask it with a different intent. Ask, why do you do what you do, and how far are you willing to go? When is enough? At what point do you plan on retiring? You're going to get the mindset of a champion in just those 5 questions. Does that make sense? You guys write those down? Excellent. So we're going to do this experiment, this little exercise. Write down somebody who is above you, somebody who's ahead of you in your market, somebody ahead of you in your career, just pushing really hard, expanding, doing great. Write this person down. If you got 2, write that person down as well. Next, write down what it is you admire about them. Is it their numbers? Is it the customer service that they provide? Is it just the status that they have in the community? Write down what you really admire about this competitor, who, by the way, is going to become your mentor. Absolutely. So write this down. And now, if you need a couple of seconds, just think about the things that I've been told I rush through these sessions, so let me slow down a little bit. The things that you admire about them, their income, maybe the amount of deals they're doing, or maybe the relationships that they have in the community, the loyalty that they experience in the community, where people only ever work with them. Well, why is that? The things that you find that you really admire about this person. Write these down now. You've got about 20, 30 seconds. It could be the status they have when they walk into a room. People just defer. People are, excited to meet them. It could be the partnerships that they've been able to forge. It could be the amount of vacations they're taking. It could be the quality of life of the people that they have around them. These are things to admire in a mentor. And for example, my mentor spends all day at the cigar shop, 8 hours every day from 10 to 7. He is at the cigar shop running a 200 unit company. He owns 200 units and manages another 300 units for other people from his cell phone. Just hanging out, talking to some of his best friends. And what do they talk about? Whatever's convenient. Stocks, real estate, how the market's going, where the market's coming from, how it compares to the past. Camping. What vacations are coming up next? Golf trips. So I decided that was a mentor I wanted, because he had the ability to work from wherever he wanted. Does that make sense? So, and then one of my coaches has 6 kids, and he built a business around traveling. He can travel all over the country, and he gets paid to step on stage. And so when I signed up with him, I said, you know what, Paul, I want to learn that skill. I already like coaching. I already like teaching. I'm already very successful in my investment business, in my agency business. But now I'd like to learn a new skill. I'd like to learn how to teach. And if I could get paid to teach, that means I could teach more, because I can take that money and roll it into marketing and spend more money to meet more people. Does that make sense? Money is to be invested. You don't always want to spend your money when you take it in. So it's to be invested. Mentors can be the person who is your attorney. It could be the person who is your mortgage broker. It could be the person who's your real estate agent. It could be your financial advisor. These can be, it could be your coach, right? If you're working with any one of the coaches in our program, they can also be your mentors if you're looking to do what they're doing. Does this make sense? We're getting through. Excellent. So continuing with this exercise, the people who are the high-level players in your market, you admire them, you aspire to them. Now to attract them into you got to learn a little bit about them. You can creep on Facebook. You can ask their friends. You can ask their clients. What do they like? What do they do? Where do they spend their time? Nobody knows a business owner like their clients, right? The clients are the business owner's top priority. And so they're spending a lot of time with their clients, a good business owner. And so you'll learn a lot about that entrepreneur or that mentor from the people that they serve. So find people that they serve, ask for references, ask where they hang out, ask how you can meet them, and then find them where they're at. Some mentors will not have a lot of time for you. Some mentors will be sitting in a cigar shop, hanging out, waiting for somebody to come by asking them questions. So it really will depend on the life that you want and where they're at. With my coach, I had to fly out to Vegas to meet him for the first time, and then to LA to meet him again, and then to New York to meet him again, and then Miami to meet him again. So I was traveling to meet a mentor or coach who wasn't in the local area. And so but he had what I wanted. Does that make sense? And so how did I attract him in? Well, with that coach, I paid the money. That was an expensive one. I put the money down, but it was worth it. the mentorship, the mastermind I'm in, absolutely phenomenal. It's how I met Doug McGurk. It's how I met Morrow. It's how I met Terry Wager. And so it's introduced me to a lot of really cool people who've actually added a lot of value to this program. And mentorships, they're super valuable in life for the time that you have them, but man, they keep giving afterwards. They become your friends, right? I would do anything for my mentors, right? These people give me so much that I would do what it took to make sure that they had the things that they wanted. Does that make sense? We're getting this. Makes sense. Excellent. So now you're going to commit. You're going to commit to reaching out to this person one way or the other. You're going to reach out to them this week, next week, within the next couple of days. Reach out, say hi, and build a relationship with them. And if you're looking to buy real estate, anybody on here looking to buy some real estate? Hands to the camera if you're looking to buy something. Yes? Excellent. Dave Pereira, do I still have you on the call? Do you see Dave on here? Dave, there you go. Can you unmute your mic, brother? Unmute. So if you're looking to get pre-approved, Dave, you got a link.
How's that? Can you?
I can hear you now. So Dave's a good friend of mine. This guy is crushing it as he's doing a flip. Did you finish your flip already, Dave? Yep. You're muted again. I want to unmute. Unmute that guy. David. There you go. Okay, we can hear you. Yep. So how is your flip going?
Flip's good. Flip's closing next week.
Closing next week? And what is the profit you stand to make on that one?
That one, I actually, that was a unique one because it came with 2 lots. So, and the second lot was subdivided already with a building on it. So I'm going to break even. However, I'm going to net that second lot, which has a building on it. It's probably going to be worth about 150.
Yep.
I probably got to put about 20 into it, but you know, I could sell it to anybody that wants to, you know, open up a package store, hair salon, you know, whatever. It's like a 1,600 square foot building with 20-foot ceilings. So that's my profit, but I plan on keeping it for myself. Right. So that's the reason why I did that one.
Nice. And Dave, you have a multifamily, right?
Yeah, that one worked out. That one worked out good.
Did you already sell your multifamily?
I sold my multifamilies. Actually, I capitalized on this market.
It makes a lot of sense.
You know, when I bought those properties 12 years ago, right at the peak of the last market. You know, when the market crashed, I was probably upside down $100,000 a piece on both of my houses. But I said, screw it. You know, they're cash flowing still. Just let them pay for themselves, you know, and I held on to them. And when I sold them, I cashed out $100,000 a piece on my properties.
Nice.
Worked out.
And so, Dave, you've been doing a lot of pre-approvals. You've been helping a lot of our investors get lined up for financing. What is the most common finance product that you've seen right now? What is the down payment people are requiring?
3.5% down on a 3 to 4 unit. And you have to have some additional funds for reserves. Typically 3 to 6 months, depends on your qualifications. A reserve is basically 1 month's worth of mortgage payments. So if your mortgage is $2,000 a month and you need 3 months reserves, you need to have $6,000 left after you buy the property.
Yep.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the most common product.
So a $300,000 house costs what, $9,000-$10,000 plus $2,000-$3,000 in reserves?
So you need $10,500 down. Your average mortgage payment will range from $1,800 to $1,950. So you figure about $6,000 in reserves.
So $6,000 in reserves, and typically, if you're buying a 3-family, you're looking at probably pulling in $1,800 in rents, just in your 2 tenants. Then you're living rent free for the most part.
People are living rent free. They're buying houses upwards of $400K, And with the rental market, the way it's going, people are still living rent free.
Yeah.
So the numbers are still still make sense.
And it makes sense
That yeah.
based on a cash on cash return, right? Cash on cash return at 12%, 14%, 16%, because you're only putting, 10,500 down, right? Now,
Yep.
you can only
Yep.
do this on your first house, right, Dave? Or is there a way to springboard this strategy?
With the low down payment option, you can only do it on your first house. There are certain circumstances where we can make it work, which is rare, where you can purchase a second one with 5%. If that makes sense. Basically, these loans are for owner occupancy only. Own one multi already. You gotta try to convince an underwriter that you're gonna live in the next property. So the next property would have to offer some type of maybe more footage, another bedroom, different town system.
Dave, you're
It's a
chopping
case
up
by
a little
case
bit.
scenario.
I think the service wherever you're at
Okay,
is
so
is a little weak right now.
yeah, let me move.
Yep. So Dave, is it possible for you to put in the chat? I know you
So
got a link to get pre-approved. Can you put that link in the chat? So if anybody's interested in learning more about what they can afford, how to get pre-approved, they could get that taken care of today. How do we lose Dave? All right, when Dave comes back on, we'll get you guys that link. Anyway, so Dave is a mentor of mine when it comes to how to finance deals, right? I've used Dave so many times figuring out how do we get our students in? How do we get them into financing cheaper at a low rate? How do we get that first house? And then once we've gotten the first house, how do we get past that first house? And so I've learned a lot about these different programs. Anybody in here ever serve in the military? Excellent. So if you serve in the military, you have the option to have a VA loan. And a VA loan is no money down. If you haven't served in the military, then you have the standard FHA loan, which is 3.5% down, which is what Dave was talking about. And Dave just put it in the chat. So you go to troycitymortgage.com and you can get your pre-approval. Dave, I don't want to promise anything, but I'd assume you could probably do it in 15, 20 minutes if it was only one person, but maybe a couple hours if everybody on here goes and puts their information in. Safe to say? Nice. Well, Dave's not on the Wi-Fi is my assessment. So getting a mentor in the arena that you want, if you haven't bought a piece of property yet, using an FHA loan is a great strategy to buy a piece of property. Moving in, 3-family, 4-family, owner occupied. This is a strategy I talked about in the book, Broke to $250,000. My process was I actually used 2 or 3 of these FHA loans over the course of a few years. And I just would refinance or I'd sell one of the properties and I'd move in again. And so it was a little bit of work and effort. And, I did end up divorced in the process. So go it slow, right? You don't have to be so aggressive, as crazy as I was. But, and pay attention to your spouse. We understand that the person in your life is very important. Yes. Their opinion is very important. Excellent. This I was missing. So could have used a relationship mentor back in the day. Now that you've written down this person, now that you have identified things that you like about them, now that you've made the commitment to go out and reach out to them, what are some strategies you can use to contact them? Well, one, Facebook, if they're not directly easily to contact. Facebook, if they're a business mentor, then they probably are listed somewhere online. And if their customers say they tend to golf or they tend to be at this place more often than not, or this is their office, you can stop by their office. You can drop in, come up with an excuse, come up with a reason, maybe give them a referral. If it's somebody who you admire and you want to learn from, it's okay to throw them business. Some people that I wanted to reach out to, I sent them 3 or 4 referrals before I finally asked them out to lunch. Does that make sense? A referral for me, by the way, costs me somewhere around $2,000-3,000. Every time I send one out, I'm losing $2,000-3,000. So that was quite the investment, but it made a lot of sense. And so it may make a lot of sense for you too if you're looking to get in with somebody who's a little bit beyond where you're at currently. And if you're not looking to get in with somebody a little beyond, well, what are you doing? Right? You're here to grow. You're here on this planet to grow. You're here on this earth to become better, to learn more, to earn more, to be a more charitable person. And when we talk about charity, I'm not talking about just giving money away. I'm talking about creating jobs, create opportunities for people, educate people, right? When people ask what I do for money, well, my investments, right? This training, yes, the people who've paid for the mentorship program have paid $1,000 to be in a mentorship program for 8 weeks. My 8 weeks worth of time is what they're paying for. But for me, that $1,000 is locking them into commitment. That's just saying, hey, they're going to show up for the 8 weeks. I used to mentor for free because I just love this, right? I used to mentor for free and people wouldn't show up. They wouldn't take themselves seriously. They wouldn't do the activities. And so that's why we started charging. And what we created was a whole other level of student, a whole other level of person who's looking to get to the next level. We created the potential for 100 millionaires. So the goal as a mentor was set out to build 100 millionaires because I wanted to hit something in life that meant something. I wanted to leave something behind that would actually leave a result on the planet, that would leave something behind so people would know I existed. So that years from now, people would say, you know what? Walter taught me this. I learned this from Walter. Or if it wasn't for that guy, I was talking to Brenda Shine last night, Mike's wife, as we went out for dinner, a vegan restaurant in Newport. It was Root. What was the name of the restaurant, Mike?
Yeah, Root. R-O-T.
Just Root in Newport. And we checked it out. We were eating. And on our way back to the cars, we were walking through the city. And, Mike was showing us some developments that his father had done. These big, massive buildings. We were looking at these big, massive boats in the docks. And we were talking about how, mentorship started, how we started doing this. Because she asked the question, how much is enough? And, it's what point are you happy? And where are you, what are you looking to do? What do you do with your free time? And I told her, well, Ron's example, my business partner, Ron Bowling, give him a round of applause for being the guy doing all the work behind the scenes. So my business partner,
I get it, Ron. I get the joke.
his goal is to relax and do absolutely nothing. His idea of massive success is not having to do anything. He wants to travel in a van. He's already trying to figure out how to get all his computers and monitors into the van so that he can travel the country and work from wherever we want. Steve, we see you, brother. Don't think you just sneak right by us. What's up, big dog? And so he asked me, well, what is yours? And Brenda asked the same question. My response is very simple. I'm already doing it. These mentorships, these coachings, writing the books, writing the next book, Real Estate Alchemist, Fast Tracking Retirement. This is my retirement. I've been retired since I was 30 years old. I'm 34 now. I was a millionaire by 32 and a multimillionaire by 34. And it seems that the things that I enjoy just happen to make money. They just happen to keep building business and money. But I enjoy creating jobs. I enjoy creating opportunity for people. I enjoy seeing somebody create something new. Look at Ron's background. That's his idea. It's called a land roamer. It's a 600, what's it called, Ron?
That's an earth roamer.
Earth roamer. Yeah, I was damn close. I pay attention to you, brother. So it's a $600,000 vehicle, and that's his goal, right? So to each their own. For me, I want 600,000 so I can reinvest it back in the company and market to more people and help more people become millionaires. So what I decided in order to hit this goal of building 100 millionaires was I needed to help more people buy more real estate. That's how I built it, right? My first $250,000 came from real estate. There's a process Ron and I talk about all the time. Who here's read the book, Millionaire Real Estate Investor? Millionaire Real Estate Investor, the blue book, who's read it? Excellent. If you haven't read it, it's a good book to read. It was written by Gary Keller, who is a multi-millionaire. Mike Shine's got it on his background. There you go. So that's the Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And what he talks about is if you want to, and by the way, the books you read could be your mentors. The books you're reading could be your first couple of mentors. It could be the people that are reaching out to you from across the galaxy, and there they are in your living room and you're reading that book. And so he says, first, you got to think a million. And that's what we're talking about today, is finding mentors who will get your mind right learn how to operate over the next 2 or 3 years. Think $1 million, and then you've got to buy $1 million. Buy $1 million, right? So in real estate, that could be 2 $500,000 buildings. It could be 4 $250,000 buildings. It could be 10 $100,000 buildings. And by the way, if you're buying $100,000 buildings, please let me know what market you're in. I'm very interested in $100,000 buildings. If you're buying $40,000 buildings, man, I don't even know how to do the math. You need a lot of those, right? So if you figure out the math on $40,000 buildings, you can drop it in the chat. So for Ron and I, we set out the goal to buy $1 million of real estate. I had already done that by the time I was 30. I'd already bought $1 million. That was where my $250,000 net worth came from. But it wasn't until the market appreciated, I did my value adds, or my $1 million net worth actually came in. It took a little while. So then there's earn $1 million. And this is the difference. Everybody thinks you're a millionaire if you've earned $1 million. I would be okay never earning $1 million because it means I got to pay tax on $1 million. But my net worth currently in the country, they don't charge me tax for owning stuff. My net worth is 2.4 million right now. And Ron and I together, just in that business alone, are 2.5 million. Whereas when he and I met 3 years ago, his net worth, I think, was around 200,000. Does that make sense? It took him 3 years to become a multimillionaire. Is it okay if it takes that long? Is it okay if it takes you 3 years? Is it okay if it takes you 5 years? Let me tell you, when I got into this, I was willing to take 7 years, 10 years. I truly believed that it was going to take 7 years, but I was willing to put 10 years into it. I was willing to obsess. I was willing to do whatever it took to become successful because I knew on the other side of success, I was going to be able to teach. I was going to be able to go into the families, into the homes, to the husbands and the wives who are suffering the inability to pay their bills, the inability to give the life for their children that they wanted to give. I knew that if I could figure out money one day, I'd be able to go back and help other people. Do you know what that feeling is like? To know what it's like to not have what you want, to not be able to provide the life for your family that you're looking for, that you see in your head as capable. And so I made that commitment that one day when I figured it out, I was going to go back and I was going to teach. And so every million that I've made has been one more level I can teach. And so there's a next level that I'm looking for. I'm looking for that $10 million mark, the Deca Millionaire. And that's where we're hunting. That's where we're going. Who's on that mission with me right now? Millionaires? People who are already millionaires, already looking to get to the Deca? Absolutely. Some of you haven't hit the million yet, but you're already saying, hell yeah, let's go 10x. Let's go 10 million. If I'm setting the goal, might as well go big. Good job. Give yourselves a round of applause if you're already thinking Deca Millionaire. It's okay. In this group, we're okay with that. And if you're not okay with making more money, you're just not a very charitable person. That's all right. You know, you don't have to be. You don't have to be focused on yourself so much. Why don't you think about other people? Look, you can't help anybody if you can't help yourself. If you can't pay the bills right now in your own house, in your own life, then you're probably not too valuable when it comes to charity, when it comes to paying for other people. Does that make sense? That's okay. That doesn't mean you're not a valuable person. It doesn't mean that you're not a valuable woman, a valuable mother, a valuable husband, a valuable father, a valuable brother, friend, cousin, business owner, partner. It just means that you're not bringing value to the marketplace. And if you're not bringing enough value to the marketplace, then you're not able to add value to other people's lives. Does that make sense? When money pays for food, right? Money pays for food. Yes. Money pays for the building you're in right now. Money pays for the internet you're using at the moment. Money pays for the groups that Ron and I are in all over the country. The more than $2,000 a month we're spending on marketing to make sure that you're getting this message, to make sure that you're learning how you can go out and improve your life. Money pays for these things. We get that. Yes. Look, money paid for this book. This book didn't write itself. Money paid for the ability to go out and teach and train and coach. Every time we've ever rented a hotel and brought everybody into that hotel to teach them, we paid for that. We make an investment in you every day. And so it's important for you to make the investment in yourself. Go out, become rich. become wealthy, so that you can go and spend the money on these things. Does that make sense? Who here knows that if you became a millionaire, you would teach somebody, at least one person? Who here be willing to commit to that? You'd be willing to commit to teaching one person. Give yourselves a round of applause for being a helpful person, being a good, decent human being. Who knows that they would be willing to commit to 100? Who knows they'd be willing to commit to helping 100 people become millionaires? If you became a millionaire, you'd be willing to put it all in on the line to teach 100 more people get there. Yeah, you're a different breed. You're different. You're something else. Building millionaires, man, when we started, I thought it'd be a lot easier. Now we're looking at it and the numbers are staggering. The numbers are insane. In order for me to build 100 millionaires in the strategy that I set out, I would have to help 100 people buy a property this year. Right. That's not where the numbers get crazy. The numbers get crazy next year. I would have to keep and maintain all 100 people's motivation, income level, mindset for another year to then buy the more difficult property, the one that requires 20% down, 25% down, because the first year is an easy. First year is a throwaway. Anybody could be an investor year one because you're only putting 3.5% down. This makes sense? I've now got to maintain 100 people for a second year to now buy a second home. Do you know how rare it is for somebody to buy a second home? Less than 30% of the people on the planet own a second home. And typically that is a retirement plan. That is a accidental investment. This has to be an intentional investment. It has to cash flow, because not only do I have to keep 100 people for 2 years, I have to keep them for 4 years, building and buying real estate for 4, maybe 5 years. 100 people buying real estate each year for 3 to 5 years. Can we imagine how difficult that is? And so I'm not a gambler, although I do dabble in the stock market. I am not a gambler. I'm not one to take thing a chance. I know that the numbers make sense. I know that with the right amount of numbers, you can do the deal. I know that the typical drop off, and pay attention to this, real estate investors, people who are saying that they aspire to be millionaires, people who want to get there. 1/3 of every transaction I've ever put together falls apart. 1/3 of every, if I look at all my deals that I've done, the hundreds of deals I've done over the years, 1/3 have always fallen apart. 1/3. And so what can I expect if I'm putting 100 people to this task of 100 people buying 100 pieces of real estate? 33, not you, but 33 of them are going to fall apart. Does that make sense? And so I started looking at the numbers, and I know that in year 2, 33% will fall off. And in year 3, 33% will fall off. And so the number I have to start with in year 1, because year 1's everything, is a 300 person count. And in year 2, I probably have to pick some people up because likely this goal will not be hit in 3 years. Does that make sense? It's a big goal. Man, it's like, why would this guy do this when he's already rich, already retired? Because I'm not wired like other people. I'm not wired to just relax when I've made it. I'm wired to do what they say is required to stay alive. They say you die after 7 years. If you retire, 7 years after retirement, you die. Has anybody ever heard that? A statistic like this? 6, 7 years, 8 years, we've heard you die after retirement. I'm not looking to die anytime soon. So I had to come up with something exciting. I lived in Vegas for 3 months. That wasn't it. I every so often will take 2 or 3 months off and do absolutely nothing. And I can't stand it. I'm not that person. I'm not wired that way. I'm wired to build. I'm wired to teach. I'm wired to train. I'm wired to encourage. I'm wired to empower. I have a problem. I can't help but want to be involved in people who are doing big things. I can't help but want to see people do well. And it's an addiction. And I'll be honest, it's selfish. Selfish as fuck. I was telling Brenda yesterday, I receive a text or a message every day from somebody. Every day, not a day goes by where I don't get a text or a message from somebody saying thank you, saying you've changed my life. What you do is important. keep doing it. Man, if I post a check, if I post a $100,000 check or a $70,000 check or $150,000 check, and I get a lot of heat for it on Facebook or on Instagram, I have 10 times as many people saying, man, great job. Keep posting them. I appreciate that. I didn't realize you could make a check like that in a month. Didn't you post a check like that 2 months ago? Yep. Those are checks you're taking in. Yep. Although the last check, the $78,000, we wrote that check. So, not as much fun. That was a check we had to write to buy a property, but still, I remember not being able to write those. Remember what it's like not to be able to write an $78,000 check to buy a piece of property, thinking, man, how do you come up with that down payment? Yeah, I've been there. So anyway, mentorship is easy to get into. walteremel.com/mentor. If you're interested, check it out. Send Arena a message if you want to learn more about it. If you want to go and find a mentor in your local market or a mentor outside of your local market, and you don't have the strategy, didn't have the strategy before, now you do. Now you have the strategy. Now it's time to go hunt. If you've already been through my mentorship program, you know that you have the skills to acquire the next mentors. Yes? I will always be there. If you've signed up, if you've gone through it, if you've become a coach or you're a graduate, you're still in our community, still have my cell phone. You still have access to every one of us. We're still putting deals together. We're still locking down appointments. We're still hunting for property. I'm still looking to buy. I'm still looking to make sure that you're getting the right properties. We're working together no matter what. Once you're through the mentorship program, you're mine for life. You're one of the 100 millionaires. I will not give up on you. You're going to have to die or stop communicating with me in order to not get to the next level, right? You text me anytime, I will be there. This goal is so important to me. I don't know how to express it other than to say I will do it no matter what. Nothing will stop me from building 100 millionaires. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care what mistakes I make along the way. I don't care what hours I don't sleep or get to sleep. I don't care how many vacations I have to go on with you guys. I don't care how many trips to Mike Shine's house, how many trips I got to take to Weymouth, drinking wine and playing volleyball, whatever it takes, how many cigar shops I have to hang out with you guys in to get you to the next level. I will do whatever it takes to make sure you're successful. Zoom calls will continue. We found a way to get around COVID. In fact, we've been more effective and we've built a bigger and better community. And each and every one of you who's hung out with us today and hangs out with us every week, I appreciate you. I appreciate your commitment to your success. And I hope that you're willing to become a mentor one day, but I hope that you're willing to be open to finding another mentor. I am here for as long as you're looking to become richer. And there are other people out there. I'm willing to share the wealth. I'm willing to bring on teammates. I'm willing to bring on other coaches who can help you get there. If you find somebody that's really impressive and you're learning a lot from them and you want to introduce me, I'm down for that too. I love being introduced to good, successful people. For now, let's open up the call for any questions, anything in regards to finding a mentor, anything in regards to how this program has improved your life. I'm okay with hearing testimonials, what you guys feel, and anything that you think is just going to move you forward. This is your chance to ask questions. You can put them in a chat or you can ask, just unmute the mic and ask. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate you, brother. You're a powerful member of our society. And so our coaches are here as well. You're seeing them dropping their links in the chat. You've got Doug, you've got Terry, you've got Mike. There is Mitch, Dave Pereira, Darina Pagodina dropping their links in the chat. So if you want to chat with any of our coaches, these are free conversations. Have a conversation with them. They would love to answer any questions you have. Ron's taking a picture, everybody. Smile for the camera. There you go. Wait till you see that picture later. He has 6 monitors up in front of him right now. 6 monitors. He just spent $4,000 on that setup, $5,000 on the setup. $5,000 on that setup. It is stupid. It makes me jealous. But it is absolutely nuts. What an investment, though. If I was a Mac guy, I'd totally do it. But I know that I can buy better and more with Microsoft. Challenge me on that, please. There you go. Mike's in there. Ryan's in there. So Ryan's a financial planner. Mike is a holistic attorney. Terry is our mindset coach. Doug does hypnosis. If you haven't done hypnosis, you need some of it. You're being hypnotized every day. So whether you believe it or not, you're already being hypnotized by other people. Chat with Doug. Mitch does the calculator, teach you how to evaluate deals. So all great coaches, great questions. So go ahead. What is a question you have? What something that we mentioned today that was an aha, or something that you'd like more information on? Terry Wager, go ahead, brother.
No question.
Oh, well, it's good to see you, man.
It's good to see you.
What questions do you have? Comments?
I got a question, Walter.
Mike Shine, give it up.
Right. So in my industry, there's attorneys who have a lot more volume than I do in closings, but I can't say that I respect them as human beings. So what do you do in that instance?
So I used to work out with a gentleman, and he ended up sleeping with my wife. But I took in how to work out. Does that make sense? So yeah, we're no longer married. Did I mention that? So
How come?
so well,
Why?
fidelity is an issue. So I learned from him how to work out. I learned form. I learned diet. I learned, the machines to use. And so I learned a lot of good things. And for a little while afterwards, I was like, man, so much of my life is, messed up because of this guy. But I can't help the fact that every time I work out, I'm using something he taught me. I'm using a principle that he taught me that was very successful. And I'm very thankful for all those moments where I learned. And he genuinely cared for me, right? Like that. This is, well, yeah, I know, right? Mike on a superficial level as much as he could. That's what it was, right? So when I think about competition, when I think about people that I admire in their business and people that are doing very well, for you in your business right now, Mike, attorneys who are doing better than you, you take the good and you leave the bad behind. So you admire their business skill. What is it that is making them more successful in business? But you don't have to ask them for relationship advice. You don't have to ask them for ethics advice or moral advice. You ask them for business advice, because business has nothing to do with anything other than your ability to be known in the marketplace. If you're the best known person, you make the most money. That's it.
But do you still call them up and meet with them like you said?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there's something to learn, man. There's something to learn there.
Cool. Thank you.
You find out what it is about them, something in their mindset. They can't go back down on income. They have to have a certain amount of people running through. And so, yeah, you don't take the things that you don't respect or that you don't appreciate. Go in with an open mind, right? Go in with an open mind, because it may be that they're just willing to serve more people. That makes them more successful. And it may be that they provide a lower level of service compared to what you would think is required, but it may be what gets them more business. So go in with an open mind. But look,
I also learned on today's call to not bring my wife to your gym.
all right, I no longer go to that gym. Thanks to COVID, I'm not wearing a mask when I work out. So I ordered my own equipment, and now we work out here. So, there's options, Mike. I did get a membership at a different gym, but I did work out at that gym for a year just to make sure that I was okay. I do things mentally just to make sure that nothing could ever affect me down the road. I could see him and it wouldn't bother me. I could be in that gym and it wouldn't bother me. So I waited until I was perfectly fine, like being in there, seeing him, seeing her. And then when I was perfectly fine, it didn't bother me anymore. Yeah. Then I went and got a different membership, because now there was no point in being around and having that experience. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, sometimes you got to lean into it. You lean into the difficulties in life. You may not like a lot of things about the mentors that you're hanging out with. If they're snorting cocaine and they're like, yeah, this is what makes you successful, just ignore that fact. It's probably not that. Most likely they're doing something, because no client ever said, I like the guy who does cocaine, right? That's not what brings them in. What brings them in is a marketing system, a marketing strategy, a branding, a referral program, a apprenticeship, something that's bringing people in for them is what does it. Does that make sense? It could be referrals, But if they're not moral or ethical, it's probably not referrals. It could be a compensation plan. It could be literally, like I said, a marketing plan. And that's something you want to learn, especially if you believe that you're the more honest, the more ethical, the person who's going to deliver more value, right? Mike Shine is the holistic attorney. So there's no doubt that everything you do is going to be done in a holistic manner to make sure everybody's doing well. So it's actually your moral, ethical duty to go out and reach out to these people and find out how they're building their businesses faster. To find a national brand, find an attorney who's a national brand, right? Lexington Law or Rocket Lawyer. Like, how are you guys serving the entire country? How do I make sure that my moral, ethical service is provided across the entire country? Does that make sense?
Thank you.
How do we get an automated version of Mike Shine? Man, that'd be badass.
We're working on that, right? We're working.
That's it. We're working on it. We're like Lemonade. Insurance claim in 3 seconds.
Think we get
I bet Tesla can do that.
All right, let me tell you how much we made in Tesla this week. Full disclosure, Mike and I both own substantial shares in Tesla, although Mike owns way more than me. I still own more than the average person, and so I can say it's substantial. Ryan McDermott is a financial planner, so he's actually not able to discuss or talk about stocks in this forum, but he does occasionally give some great financial advice. And because he's not allowed to say much, you really do have to schedule a one-on-one with him in order to get the best advice from him. Ryan, you put your information in there?
I did, yeah.
So Ryan, what's something you and I can talk about? Got one. Is it a good idea to follow the 4 principles of wealth, which is 1, increase income, 2, save, 3, invest, and 4, simplify? How do you feel about those 4 steps?
I'm a big believer in those 4 steps. And, you know, I think the big thing, too, to think about is, you know, we talk about in this forum and all these different webinars we're part of about growing our net worth. And that's critically important. But what we also need to think about is to kind of change and think a little bit more dimensionally, two and 3 dimensionally, about what will our net worth create in income. If the goal is to eventually not have to work, what does that net worth get you? So if it's a big number up here, what does that big number actually generate for you in income? And shouldn't we be measuring that as we're measuring our net worth as well? And that's something that we get into in our financial planning practice, and it's usually, you know, a lot of times they're not sort of the same thing. So
awesome. Give Ryan a round of applause. Appreciate you, brother. I know half the time when me and Mike or Mitch are talking about stocks, you're like holding your tongue. I know you know so much and you want to be able to deliver, but because we're in this forum, it's you have to hold back a little bit. But we appreciate you, man.
Hey, Walter, Stephanie wants you to repeat the 4 steps.
Oh, Steph, great question. So, by the way, everybody on the call, since you're still here, I will tell you where I learned these 4 steps. These 4 steps came from Grant Cardone in his book, The Millionaire Booklet. But before that book came out and really simplified how to build wealth quickly, they were also in The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And they talk about it. They talk about earn income. You must earn income somehow. There it is. Ron Bowling's got the book up. You must earn income, increase income, save, because you must earn more than you're spending. So save. 2, take that savings and invest it. Invest in something that provides a dividend or a rental income or a profit or royalties or interest, and then simplify your life. So most people are good at simplifying. You know how to cut out Dunkin' Donuts, you know how to cut out Starbucks, you know how to cut out, trips, gas mileage, you know how to save money here and there, but saving will not get you wealthy by itself. Saving is a function, it's a part of, but it's probably only 2 to 3% of the wealth strategy. 80% of your time has to be spent on increasing income. It must be spent on increasing your income at all times, focusing on increasing income. And then saving the excess, the surplus cash. I sound just like Grant Cardone as I say it. Saving the surplus cash, the excess, and putting it into sacred accounts. In those sacred accounts, you save and you stack it up until you can get to a substantial level for investment. For investing in the stock market or cryptocurrency or small interest amounts, small amounts are fine, right? Ryan could probably invest $1,000 for you, $500 for you. Ryan, is that, yeah, those amounts could be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas real estate requires a little bit more. You got to get up to that $10,000, $15,000 mark where you can start playing the real estate game ethically. You could invest with other people's money. Absolutely. We do it all the time. But I don't like the idea of you putting other people's money on the line until you've put your own money on the line. If you haven't figured out how to save $10,000, $15,000, you don't deserve the real estate game yet. The real estate game comes at a high risk. It's a little more work involved. And so it's got a little bit more requirement to it. The stock market, you can start a little bit smaller. The returns typically are a little safer. They're a little, well, I can't say they're safer, but the returns are typically a little bit smaller. They can't build quite the way real estate does. You can't leverage quite the way real estate does. $10,000 gets you $10,000 worth of returns. In real estate, a $10,000 down payment can buy you a $300,000 house, which means you're playing with a $300,000 return. So if that goes up 10%, you've made $30,000. If $10,000 in the stock market goes up 10%, you've made $1,000. Does that math make sense? Everybody grasps? So it's the leverage, the ability to leverage real estate that makes it so attractive. And that's why eventually you do want to be owning real estate. That's how you build wealth much faster. But how to simplify it is just like, you know, me, Mitch, Ryan, Mike, Ron, we all put our wealth into some portion of it into stocks that pay dividends or that appreciate to continue to grow. And you can do what Ryan would probably suggest is a nice diversified portfolio that would be relatively safe and gain you a 5 to 8% interest per year. And that would be a good return, maybe 12%. Now, there are ways to earn more. There are ways to put a little more effort in. Ron and I, when we take our money, we expect 100% return on investment, and we're not waiting the whole year to get that back. We want our money to give us 100% return on investment within 3 to 6 months. Is it okay that we demand that from our money? Yes? Well, we babysit the shit out of it. We put all of our eggs in one basket and we keep an eye on that basket. We monitor our contractors. We monitor our property managers. We monitor our real estate agents, our attorneys, our lenders. We're keeping an eye on everybody. Our attorneys are our best friends, right, Mike? We hung out last night. We went out. We had some great food. Dish one was scary. Dish one was 3 peppers about that size. Dish 2 is a little better. Dish 3, okay. The dishes get bigger. Mike, tell me there's 5 dishes on the plate, right? Because they're getting bigger as they go. And then dessert came, and by the time dessert came around, man, we were okay. We were going to be all right. And this was a vegan restaurant called Roots in Newport. I love sending people business. And the owner, Paul, and his wife, they were so nice to us, and they really gave us a heck of an experience. So, you know, those people you babysit during the process, you can get a great return. So Ron and I think we'll be putting in around $30,000, $40,000 into this flip, but we expect to receive $40,000, $50,000 out of it. Is that okay that we're demanding that much from our money? Is it okay that we're demanding that kind of return? Excellent. So the condos that we bought, is it okay if I brag for a second? Everybody mind if I brag? I already sold to you. I already said, hey, you know, buy my mentorship. It's $1,000. It's a cheap, small investment. So is it okay that I brag now? Yes, we agree? Cool. So we bought the condos with no money down. We bought $2.4 million worth of real estate for $840,000. Do you think if you bought a deal at that price, you could find the money for it? Yes? Yes? I did too. And so we did. We raised $300,000 in capital in a matter of 2 months. And I had to stretch. I had to reach outside of my comfort zone. I had to go to my friend Mike and be like, Mike, who do you know? And Mike was like, I got 50 grand. And there was an extra 50 grand.
Boom.
And he charged me 2 points and 14%. I'm still paying that note.
Hashtag worth it. Hashtag worth it.
Worth it. So when you think about, and Mike, the reason he got such a high interest rate is he was 2 weeks to closing, came through at the last minute, at the final hour. And so it's okay to pay that. Yes. You would pay 14% interest and 2 points. It's 16% essentially. if it meant you were getting $1 million deal, earning $1 million in one swing, do you think you'd come up with that cash? You'd find a way, right? And if you don't know how to find a way, join the mentorship. I don't have to sell it much harder than that. If you don't know how to get capital when you want capital, we got the way to do it. It's very easy. It's not that hard. It's just a matter of finding a good deal and then asking people to lend on the good deal. It's a good opportunity. What other questions do we have? Any questions on today's topic on finding mentors, the importance of mentors? Questions for the coaches? Later, Glenn. Good seeing you, Craig. Yes, trading margin is only for experienced traders. The banks do charge interest. Yes, they do. Mike and I often trade margin. Mitch, I assume, trades margin?
Yes, sir. Probably more than I should.
Yes, absolutely. You and I both. Ryan McDermott, I don't know if you can tell us. Have you ever traded margin before?
No, not personally.
Really? Oh,
I've
excellent.
avoided it. Yeah.
Which is why he's a great financial advisor for you, because not doing anything crazy, unlike
and already a millionaire. So,
yes.
You know, for the rest of us, we're playing around with cash. We're doing our things. Ryan built it in a stable, solid manner. So good job, Ryan. Good for you.
Yeah. There's all different ways.
Yeah.
But again, we're not playing with money that we would be paying the mortgage or buying food. That's not what's going on here.
Speculative.
That's right.
Speculative portion of your portfolio.
Yes.
Which is basically 10% or less.
And
AKA
I like
your buy Tesla money, because it's a speculative stock, whether you don't think it is or not.
I love it. So Ryan, sealed lips.
Yes.
So, Mitch, what were you saying a minute ago? You were talking about margin. Oh, yeah, margin. So here's, Ryan, a strategy you might consider. So with margin, the reason I typically had stayed away from it previously, which, by the way, wasn't very long. As soon as I figured out I had margin, I was using margin. So like I had $1,000 in there. Like, here's another 1,000.
10x.
I figured it out. I made money from nothing. OPM, 10x in this. And so margin, by the way, for anybody who's ever traded stocks or hasn't traded stocks, is borrowed money in the brokerage account. The broker will allow you to use up to 100% of the funds that you have. They'll allow you to leverage it another 100%. So 2 times margin. Some brokers, I don't know if they still do this, but some used to allow us to go 4 times margin if you had over 40,000 or 50,000 in your account. So sometimes you can actually go 4 times margin. Some requirements are only 20,000, 25,000 in the account. Ryan, does that still something they offer? 4 times?
Sure.
There's some brokers out there, right?
Yeah.
Woo! Okay, I got to look at
It's not Ryan's wheelhouse. I mean, listen, if you really want to go
really
junkie status, you know, just get your license, become a prop day trader, and they'll give you 50-to-1 leverage.
Oy.
That's what I did back in the day.
50? Okay. All right. So, gotta get my
Let's not be day traders. Let's be real estate investors.
I'm with it.
So as a coach, can I ask a question to another coach? I want to ask Ryan something, because I don't know if we'll have clarity on it. And obviously, since I've been in that industry for a number of years, a lot of times I have people I want to refer to Ryan, but I'm not sure exactly what I should be sending them to you for, Ryan. Like, what is the bread and butter of, I guess, essentially products or services that is your main thing? So I know that I'm sending the right people instead of just sending anyone all willy-nilly.
Sure. Yeah. And you know, and I guess what I would say to that is it's really people that want to get organized strategically before they get into products. Like most people that come to us have already been successful, and they've got a 401k here, an IRA here, a brokerage account here, a Scott trade account here. They've got some insurance, but none of it is really coordinated together. It's all good stuff, but none of it, there's no cohesive strategy. And that's what they come to us for. We really are not like, I know that, see lots of the technical trading questions that go around. That really is not what we do. What we do is really sort of help bring the strategy. Then once we come up with the strategy and we decide what the best course forward is, when we get to implementation, we pull in experts to do the implementation. Sometimes it's us doing it. Other times it's third-party money managers. Other times it's sending them to a traditional trader, that will execute those strategic technical trades with the timing the market, because that's really not what we do. So, I guess the long answer to your question is those successful people that need that strategic help, and they need almost like that personal CFO. That's who we can best serve.
Okay, and I had a feeling that's what it was. So basically, the two takeaways is essentially you guys help really people that already have money. You help put their financial house in order, their financial investment house, and those even starting out, you basically build that strategic plan for them to build on to essentially create, investment wealth, or call it retirement income even.
That's absolutely right. And the last thing I would say on it too is, like, we are constantly receiving marketing messages at us all the time, for different products and different services and different strategies. And what we can do is we can take those strategies and actually vet them through different calculators to see what it looks like. Does it make sense to do the truth in lending strategy? Does it make sense to do infinite banking? Does it make sense to mix those two things? How do you mix those two things? And what does it look like? What are the outcomes for all of them? If you go this way, what is that outcome compared to this outcome? And what are all the opportunity costs to it? That's what we, I think that's probably the thing that differentiates us from mostly everybody else.
That's awesome. I got to talk to you about infinite banking, something that I've been thinking about for a couple of years. I just have to put the strategy in place.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's an interesting strategy, and it works, but you have to commit to it. And that's,
Yeah, you got to build up to it. So like you said, build that plan. Awesome. Yeah, guys.
Right.
Ryan's awesome. So what he does for financial planning is essentially what I do for real estate investing. So shameless plug, if you need to get your strategy with real estate investing and you need to analyze your numbers, come talk to me. I'll help you out. I'll get you moving forward on that path, because like Galter said last week, if you haven't bought a property in 2020, it's no one's fault but your own.
Yes.
And that's so true. And if you need examples, I can give you them of people that started from nothing and bought a property this year.
Good,
And
right?
I can say that, again, as kind of a strategic person, who has not bought a property yet in 2020, I have engaged Mitch to figure that out, to help me figure that out. And, I'm a big believer. I didn't start to really believe in paying for advice until I started charging for advice. It's very interesting when that starts to happen, and how valuable it actually is. And it makes you commit to what you're actually trying to accomplish. So.
Yeah. Very powerful. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Mitch. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if I was very clear, but you've got to go get your mentors, and you've got to buy a house this year. If you don't own a piece of real estate, you've got to buy something, right? I'm looking to get 100 people buying real estate this year who will buy again next year and the year after. So I'm on a mission, and I want you to be a part of it. So let's take it seriously. Let's do what it takes to get that piece of real estate locked in for 2020 so that we can lock in a bigger, better piece in 2021. If you have other things to do and you want to jump off the call, that is completely fine. You can wave goodbye. You can say telog, atamanya, ciao. We'll see you around. If you want to hang around with us, absolutely. Go ahead, hang around. I've got a hard stop at 12 o'clock. I've got a couple of other coaches who want to ask questions in here, want to figure out how they can be a part of the program. So, Lily, if you're still on the call, jump on. Ask any questions you have about what we're doing. I know that's totally outside of your comfort zone, but that's what being a coach is. Yeah, we jump out of our comfort zone asking here. Doug McGurk, good to see you, brother. How is everything going in Florida?
Rocking and rolling as ever. Keeping it as together as possible. Everyone's confused with what phase we're in, whether we can where we can go or school and all that, but we're rocking.
Absolutely. Nice, man. What about you, Terry? How is everything in Portland?
Like Doug said, rocking and rolling. We don't, there's a lot of news out there that says Portland is on fire from riots and things like. It's not happening. There's like 3 blocks that they let them do that, and I think it's just for news. But no, things are great out here. We are rocking and rolling. We are building. We are doing what needs to be done to have the businesses we're looking for. So, yeah, we're excited about the way we're going. Excited to be about part of this and helping everybody else meet their dreams.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Terry. Thank you. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Terry. You guys are doing an awesome job. Mitch, Ryan, answering questions. What questions do you have? Later, Crystal. Good seeing you. What questions? This is your chance. Your chance to ask questions to the people who are willing to give you some advice.
Roger's got his hand up.
Roger, go ahead, brother.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you as well.
Favorite artist in the house.
Artiste.
Amazing artist.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I've actually, it's funny. Speaking of artists, it's going to require some artful advice from you guys. I kind of already know the answer to this, but I think everyone else might benefit from your knowledge.
Yeah.
This is a specific question, so hopefully this is okay for him to ask the question. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. So I have a property that I own in New Bedford. I bought 2 years ago, 3-unit. As everyone knows who's in the area, New Bedford is exploding right now in value. And I'm debating on whether to refi it and pull some money out to use that for investments, or just flat out sell it and take that huge chunk and buy more investments. Where would you guys go with it?
So how many units is it right now? You said 3?
3 units. It cash flow is about $1,000 a month, and I owe $189 on it, and the value's got to be somewhere south of 360.
So
I'm sorry, north of 360.
Your equity position is somewhere around 150,000 after commissions for an agent. Okay. So your return on investment, Mitch, what's his cash on cash? If he's getting 12,000 a year, and oh shoot, my phone wants to install now. Sure, go ahead.
What?
Sorry, I was multitasking in
Hold on, I got
chat,
another
so I didn't
phone.
hear the numbers.
So
All right, so it's
150,000
yep. Mm-hmm.
divided by 12,000. Cash on cash return is 12%. Did I do that right? That's 12,000 divided by 150. Yeah, that's 8%. I would do something with that money. Either refinance it or sell it and buy 2 3s. Sell it and buy a 6,
Yep.
or sell it and buy 8 units. Can you find, because it's easy to sell a property, right? It's really easy in this market to sell that. First, identify a property. Go out, hunt. You don't want to be in a rush to trade. And that's a 3-family. So you're still going to pay taxes on 2 of those units, even if you lived in one of them. So a 1031 exchange would be a good idea, unless you wanted some of that capital. If you wanted some of the capital out, you're just going to pay tax on whatever capital you take. You'd still do a partial 1031 exchange where you're moving most of it into the next property, and whatever you take, you're paying taxes on.
So what is the tax rate if I wanted to literally take it all out and pay the cap gains?
So you've owned it for a year?
Yeah, actually 2 years now.
Your capital gains on that will be 15%. Were you owner occupied? You live in it?
No, it's investment property only.
Okay. So your capital gains is going to be 15%.
15%. And that's state and federal, or combined, or just state?
That's just federal.
That's just fair.
Massachusetts.
Tack on another 5 for good old Mass.
Yep.
Oh, love you, Massachusetts. Taxachusetts, love you.
That's it. But
so 20%. 20% out.
Yes. And if you can find ways where there were expenses, maybe you renovated a roof or anything like that, that all goes against it.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. All right. So there's some depreciation involved in that as well.
And if it depreciated, that plays on the other side.
Yeah, you get
I get you.
recapture is always fun.
So you're going to
Oh,
recapture it when you sell. So that's why we 1031 exchange.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. But my sense is, if I've got a 150 in equity, worst case scenario, I'm going to lose about 50 of it.
Yeah.
So
right.
so hold on.
So-
I apologize because, like I said, I missed some of the numbers up front. So you have a good chunk of equity in the property right now?
Yeah, I owe about 188 to be real.
Okay.
And again, 360 seems low in terms of what it would sell at, but just to be conservative, that would be my guess.
Okay, so obviously I don't know what your financial situation is in terms of qualifying for loans, but I mean,
Yes, so I've got a
personally,
pretty high. I'm
the first
I'm a high
option would be
qualifier.
okay, yeah, because that would always be the first option is how do I refi out to get that equity because you're not paying taxes on accessing that equity, and then you can use that money obviously to go after another investment as opposed to either worrying about a big tax bill and or doing a 1031.
And Dave's got a strategy in here too. He said he would use 3.5% down to purchase another property, then use the rest to get a commercial property, correct, or do a cash out refi that will only allow you to access 80% of your LTV, loan to value.
Right.
So there's a couple different hybrid strategies. What Mitch is saying makes a lot of sense. What Dave's saying makes a lot of sense. You kind of combine it all together. But Roger, you're at a point where, yeah, you got some decisions to make. There's definitely too much equity in there. You're only getting 8% cash on cash right now, which is not a very good return. You should be able to get double of that with the amount of equity you have in the properties.
Right.
And in
okay.
Mass, do you have to pay? Can you write off the interest? Because I know in New York you can't anymore. Can you write off the interest on your mortgage? So if you refi, you can also write that off.
If you've got enough, so it doesn't work for normal people, but it does work for us. So if you own enough real estate, I think it's over $10,000, there's some bracket, which we hit every year. So as an investor, if you've got enough real estate, enough interest you're paying, yes, you can. But if it's just, your single family house, you don't have that option anymore.
Right.
Okay. That's great. Yeah. And just to further complicate things, I do own an additional investment property that was purchased on an FHA. So it's still carrying that FHA status.
Refinance.
Refinance that bad boy too. Yeah, I'd love to do both, to be honest with you. Refinance both and then use cash out some to use that for the next investment.
Roger, have you reached out to Dave Pereira yet?
I just realized Dave was on the call today.
You and Dave need a
reach
call.
out to Dave. He'll hook you up.
All right, Dave. Expect a call.
That's it. What do you say?
Right,
with that much
thank you.
equity, you could probably buy 3 houses if you sold it, bud. Let's see. Your only option would be sort of non-QM financing, which is making its way back due to COVID or commercial loan. Sounds good. So yeah, Dave will hook you up, man. Roger, great question. Everybody got value out of that, right? Like obviously that's a more advanced question. If you've got some equity sitting around, like what do you do with it? These are what we call high quality problems.
So
go ahead, Terry.
Dave was actually answering Lee Delmonico's question about I have $400K in equity but no W-2 income and the banks aren't willing to lend. What to do? What do I do?
Got you.
Ooh, I know because that's my life.
Yep, same here.
So yeah, exactly. You're on the same boat, Galter. Lee, I don't know if I'm assuming you're looking to buy another investment property, or the property that you have is an investment property. If you don't live in that property that you have the 400K equity in, you can get a loan on it. You're just going to pay higher terms. You're going to pay a higher rate because that's what it is for no doc, so to speak. So there are plenty of lenders out there that you can borrow through and access that equity, but just know you're going to be paying like 6% on like a 30-year mortgage. But if the numbers make sense, then access those funds. I just did a refi on a multi, and I'm paying, I think 6.2, and I'm happy to pay it because it freed up all that equity, freed up all the money. I have $0 in the property. And it still cash flows. So focus on the numbers and less about the rate. Obviously, the cheaper the rate, the better. And in another year, when my LLC has 2 years of tax returns, my Massachusetts LLC that is, I'll probably be refining into more traditional loans at that 3.5 that you can get. So you can access that capital 100% without having to go through the whole typical tax returns and W-2s and all that stuff. I can recommend a couple lenders if you'd like.
Nice. What questions does everyone have?
Dorina asked, what is non-QM financing?
Non-qualified mortgage. Very good question. Thank you. Was this valuable? Everybody got something out of this? Good, valuable information. Yes, excellent. Very good. Go ahead. Chris Hayward, I see you, brother.
Yeah. So what is qualified? What is qualified? Not what is the qualification? What does that mean?
Dave, do you want to jump in and answer that one?
Tax docs and a blood sample.
Firstborn.
See Howie.
Actually, he answered it. He wrote it in the chat.
There you go. A qualifier to qualify mortgage is your QM is a traditional FHA, Fannie Mae loan. A non-QM is a non-traditional loan where private investors lend their money. And so that is the world that we typically live in as real estate investors. We're typically investing with private funds, or we eventually roll into commercial loans, which tend to be lower interest rates. As you buy bigger buildings, have more units, more real estate, you can portfolio loan everything together, lump it all in under one mortgage. And those are much better for interest rate wise. Private loans are a little more expensive. Although I know investors who've gotten loans at 1%. You just got to ask.
Damn.
Yeah. I met a guy in Middleborough. We had a Middleborough meetup, and he was actually not from around here, right? He was out of town. I can't remember what nationality he was, but he had the accent, and he just didn't know any better not to ask for 1% interest. Like he said, "Oh, would you do seller financing? Would you do it at 1%?" And the guy said yes. Right.
Well, and it's about knowing your market and knowing opportunity. I have a couple of good investor friends down here that I do my South Florida meetups with that, they own 150 plus units in Missouri, and majority of that they were able to acquire because they had one big private money investor that was lending to them at 4%, which all of us would love to get $500,000 at 4%. And the reason they were is because it was a foreign contact. The woman was in Italy. One of the guys is originally from Italy. And someone in Italy right now, if you tell them you give them 4% backed by assets, they're just like, how much do you need? Because you got zero interest in countries like that. So they're happy to. So it's recognizing that opportunity and recognizing, quote unquote, the market, so to speak.
Hey, Walter, I just wanted to add something that might have been missed in that little sentence there that you said you just have to ask. I think a lot of people forget to ask, and it's so key.
Personally,
You don't ask, you don't get it. The building I'm standing in, I asked him for seller financing, and he said no. And then I came back, saw the building a second time, and I said, hey, how about seller financing? And he said yes on the second turn. 4.5%, and I drafted all the documents. So that's awesome. Mortgage, the whole thing done, and yeah, I'm in the
Makes
building.
it a little easier.
Yeah, he didn't even read it. He didn't read the mortgage. I could have put in, I took all his property. He didn't read any of it. It's awesome. But I paid him in full, 1 year, interest only, balloon note, done, and then got into institutional mortgage.
That's how it works. Full circle.
That's a great example of asking. Earlier, Galter talked about one out of what is it? 1 out of every 3 deals, or whatever, a 30-year deals don't work out. It's the same thing with, asking questions on seller financing. You could ask 3 people, maybe it works out once. I have a deal on the contract. I'd ask the guy if he wanted to seller finance, but wasn't an option. So now I'm using a private money lender instead. But if I didn't ask, the answer is going to be no anyway.
One of the things that I like to point out about what Mike Shine said was it's not just about asking, but keep asking, because people say no a lot over and over, but they're just saying no reflexively. And if you ask again, they may change their mind. And that's the whole idea of follow-up. Continue to follow up. Continue to ask again. You never know if one day they have one situation and then the next day they have a totally different situation that makes that turn into a yes very easily. And so continue.
No, it's not now.
Exactly.
Yeah. In fact, we've never done seller financing and had a yes the first time we asked. It's the seller financing deals that we've done have always come from, down the road, asking again. So
another thing about that is they say no. A lot of times we just shut down and never ask why. And a lot of times they might not understand, or they have a certain idea about what you just asked. So asking, what's your no about, and get further into it, you find a complaint or you find an objection that you didn't know they had, but as you understand it more, you can actually turn their no into a yes, or even a better deal based on their answer to no.
Yeah, that's just to piggyback on that, back to this building. I didn't know why he said no the first time, and I had all sorts of assumptions, for agreements, don't assume. But anyways, and I just assumed he didn't want to do it. And then when I spoke to him the second time, he said actually he had a small mortgage on the property, and if I was willing to pay off the small mortgage, which was like a down payment, he would give me private seller financing for the rest. I had no idea that that's what was stopping him. So when we closed, we paid off his mortgage, and boom, that was it.
No problem.
Yeah.
Step one of negotiation is understand what their needs are.
Great. Absolutely. Don't assume.
Make no assumptions.
Right.
Excellent. So at this time, I'm going to ask the coaches to stay on the call. We're going to say and wave goodbye to everybody else. We're just going to have a quick conversation with the coaches. We're looking at a syndication deal out in Ohio with Mitch Jorsky. But for everybody else who's hung out with us this long, thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you. Cheers to your success. When you have a choice, always work with the best.
Work with the best.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, guys.
Peace.